There's a truth about highly sensitive people that most will never understand, a truth that Carl Jung uncovered at the dawn of the 20th century, and that Andrew Huberman's neuroscience is now proving with hard data from MRI and EEG studies. The HSP who yells, who explodes, who confronts. That person is predictable. The narcissist knows how to manipulate that person, knows how to twist their words against them, knows how to distort their emotions to make them appear crazy. But what about the HSP who remains silent? That is the most dangerous person of all. Not dangerous in the sense of violence, but dangerous in the sense of power, of clarity, of irreversible transformation. The narcissist has spent years cultivating your emotional reaction. And when you simply stop reacting, when you choose silence, they lose all ability to control you. And that is more devastating than any confrontation could ever be. But here's what no one tells you about the HSP's silence. It's not passivity, it's not weakness, it's not giving up. It's precisely the opposite. It's the moment the soul begins to gather its fragments, its scattered pieces. Jung called this process individuation, the path towards becoming whole, integrating all the parts of the psyche that have been fractured throughout life. And silence is the first sign that this process has begun. The HSP who stops explaining themselves, who stops justifying their existence, who stops begging to be understood. That HSP is entering a phase of transformation that will permanently change who they are and how they relate to the world. You need to understand something fundamental before we continue. Yelling is a form of connection. It sounds contradictory, but it's true. When you yell, when you explode, when you confront, you're still investing energy in the relationship. You're still trying to be heard. You're still hoping, even if unconsciously, that the other person will change, that your words will finally make a difference, that this time they'll understand. Silence is radically different. Silence is genuine withdrawal. It's the moment you realize, at the deepest level, that there's nothing more to say, that your words were never truly heard, that all the energy you've spent for years trying to make yourself understood has been wasted on someone who lacked the capacity to comprehend, or worse, who understood perfectly and chose not to care. Hold on, because what Huberman discovered about the nervous system completely changes how you understand the transformative power of silence. In June of 2025, he released a revolutionary episode about the vagus nerve. This nerve is one of the most important structures in your body. It connects your brain to practically all of your major organs, and it operates in two distinct directions. 80% of the vagus nerve fibers are afferent, which means they send information from the body to the brain. Only 20% send commands from the brain to the body. This completely inverts what most people think about the mind-body connection. This means that your bodily state influences your mental state far more than the other way around. Your body isn't just receiving commands from the brain. It's constantly sending information that shapes how you think, feel, and perceive reality. And here is the connection that no one makes and that changes everything. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, your nervous system is constantly in a state of high alert. Your vagus nerve is suppressed by the chronic activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Your body is in permanent survival mode. This affects everything: your digestion, your sleep, your ability to think clearly, your ability to feel emotions in a balanced way. And when you choose silence, when you stop reacting emotionally, something deeply neurological happens. Your nervous system begins to regulate itself for the first time in years. The vagus nerve starts to function properly. Your heart rate variability, one of the key markers of health and longevity, improves significantly. Your digestion normalizes, your sleep deepens, your mind clears. And this isn't poetic metaphor. It's measurable in the lab. It's documentable with equipment. And it's reversible with consistent practice. The neuroscience of 2025 showed that highly sensitive people have unique neurological signatures that differentiate them from the rest of the population. Studies using EEG have revealed that HSPs have higher activity of beta and gamma waves during the resting state. This means that even when they're not doing absolutely anything, when they're just sitting in silence, their brains are processing information more intensely than average. The central, parietal, and temporal regions of the brain show consistently elevated activity in people with high sensory processing sensitivity. And you know what that practically means for you. The HSP who remains silent is not shutting down, is not sleeping, is not running away. They are processing at a level others can't access. They are integrating information others don't even perceive. They are transforming internally while externally appearing absolutely calm. And this combination of deep processing with an external appearance of calm is what makes the silent HSP so impactful. They're operating on a different frequency, seeing things others don't see, understanding dynamics others don't even suspect. Hold on to this. It will make sense when I reveal what happens in the complete transformation. Jung identified something that modern analysts call the silent exit of the empath. He observed that when empaths finally stop fighting, stop explaining, stop trying to fix, they enter a process of 5 stages that fundamentally and permanently changes who they are. The first stage is recognition. You finally see reality. Without the filters of hope and denial that have obscured your vision for years, you see the narcissist for who they really are, not for who they said they were, or for the potential you projected onto them. You see the dynamic for what it really was. You see your own role in the toxic dance, and this clear vision is simultaneously devastating and liberating. The second stage is the internal shift. Something inside you dies, and it needs to die. The part that believed it could fix the other person through enough love. The part that thought if you were more patient, more understanding, more tolerant, things would change. The part that blamed itself for what was never its fault in the first place. This death is necessary. Jung called it ego death. Not the complete destruction of the ego, which would be psychosis, but the death of a specific version of the ego that was based on false beliefs about yourself and about the nature of the relationship. The third stage is the silent withdrawal, and this is where the real power begins to manifest in visible ways. You stop reacting, you stop explaining, you stop defending, you stop arguing. Not because you've passively given up, but because you deeply understand that your words never had the power you thought they did, that the narcissist was never listening to understand your perspective. They were listening to find loopholes, to manipulate, to distort, to use against you later. And when you stop providing material for that manipulation, they lose their primary tool of control over you. The fourth stage is the confrontation with reality, but not a confrontation with the narcissist, a confrontation with yourself, with all the ways you allowed the abuse to continue, with all the times you ignored your intuition when it screamed that something was wrong, with all the occasions when you betrayed yourself, diminished yourself, silenced yourself, to maintain a false peace that never truly existed. This internal confrontation is painful, but absolutely essential. Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The external silence allows the unconscious to emerge, allows you to see patterns that were completely hidden, while you were too busy reacting to the external chaos. The fifth stage is the emergence of the sovereign self. This is the person the narcissist never knew, never saw, never imagined existed within you. the person you always were in essence, but who was buried under layers and layers of conditioning, manipulation, and false beliefs about yourself. The sovereign self doesn't need external validation to know their worth, doesn't need to convince anyone of anything, doesn't need to prove they are good, competent, lovable, or worthy, simply exists, whole, integrated, free from psychological dependencies on other people's approval. Does it seem simple when I describe it like this in linear stages? There's a neuroscientific detail that changes the entire understanding. Dr. Andrew Huberman explained in his episode about the vagus nerve that this nerve controls emotional expression through subtle facial signals that most people don't even consciously perceive. The size of your pupil, the micro-expressions that flash across your face in fractions of a second, the subtle tone of your voice, the almost imperceptible muscle tension. When you're in fight or flight mode, these signals leak out involuntarily. You can't completely hide them. The narcissist, through years of predatory practice, has learned to read these signals with frightening accuracy. They know when you're vulnerable, even if you don't say a word. Know when to push and when to strategically retreat. Know exactly which buttons to push at which moment. But when you enter genuine silence, when your nervous system finally regulates, when you're no longer in a chronic state of alert, these signals change fundamentally. You become unreadable to them. They can no longer predict your reactions, can no longer calibrate their manipulation, and that's absolutely terrifying to someone whose psychological survival depends on reading and manipulating others. But why is silence more powerful than any confrontation? The answer lies in the fundamental nature of narcissistic supply. The narcissist needs emotional reaction like an addict needs their drug of choice. The neuroscience of addiction shows that the narcissistic brain's reward system has been calibrated over years to receive dopamine through control over others, through provoking reactions, through being the center of emotional dramas. When you scream, even if it's to defend yourself from a real injustice, you're providing that supply. You're showing that they still have power over your emotions, that they can still affect you deeply, that they are still relevant and central in your life. Silence cuts off that supply at the root in a way that no confrontation can. Silence is different from an attack that they can parry with counterattacks. It's different from an accusation that they can distort and use to make you look like the aggressor. Silence gives no material for manipulation, gives no fuel for gaslighting, gives absolutely nothing they can use, and that nothing, that emptiness, is more devastating to the narcissistic psyche than any furious word could be. The narcissist enters a form of real psychological withdrawal. They begin to escalate their behaviors in increasingly desperate ways. Try to provoke reaction through any means available. More intense accusations, more dramatic victimization, veiled or explicit threats, attempts to spark jealousy, contact through third parties, unexpected appearances, and when absolutely nothing works, when your silence remains unshakable, they eventually lose interest, not because they loved you and got over that love, not because they found inner peace, but because you ceased to be useful as a source of narcissistic supply. You've become an energy investment that yields no return, and narcissists are pragmatic about where they invest their energy. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, one of the world's foremost experts on narcissism, has documented this pattern extensively over decades of clinical practice. She calls the technique the grey rock method. You become so predictable, so boring, so completely non-reactive that the narcissist simply gives up and goes to seek supply elsewhere. But the silence of the highly sensitive person who has gone through individuation is even more powerful than the classic grey rock, because it's not a technique you're consciously applying while internally still suffering. It's a genuine and permanent transformation. You really don't care anymore what they think, really don't need their validation, really left the psychological game completely. Carl Jung warned about something that very few people truly understand. He said that the empath has always been powerful, always had a depth that others don't reach, always carried a capacity for transformation and healing that is genuinely rare in the human population. But that extraordinary capacity was unconscious. It was being used automatically to absorb the pain of others, instead of being directed consciously to heal oneself. When the empath awakens, when they integrate the shadow that was denied, when they accept their own power without guilt or shame, they become what Jung called the most dangerous archetype of all. Not dangerous in the sense of causing harm to others, dangerous in the sense of not being able to be controlled, manipulated, or deceived ever again. Neuroscience confirms this in an absolutely impressive way. Research published in 2025 showed that highly sensitive people have higher consistent activity in the insula, the brain region responsible for interoception. Interoception, it's the ability to perceive the body's internal states, to know when something's wrong before you have external evidence, to sense incongruities between what someone says and what they really feel. A highly sensitive person has access to information that most people simply don't perceive. This ability, when it becomes conscious and directed by choice instead of automatic, becomes a form of power that can't be falsified, bought, or manipulated. And here's where the complete transformation protocol begins. This protocol combines Carl Jung's discoveries about individuation and shadow integration with Andrew Huberman's neuroscientific validations regarding autonomic nervous system regulation. Phase 1 is honest recognition of the pattern. You need to identify all the specific ways in which your scream, your emotional reaction, your attempts to make yourself understood have fueled the toxic dynamic over time. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about freeing yourself when you see clearly and without defenses how your reactions have been systematically used against you. You stop providing them automatically. Phase 2 is deliberate and consistent regulation of the nervous system. Huberman teaches the physiological sigh technique, one of the most powerful tools available. 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system directly through the vagus nerve. This isn't passive relaxation like New Age meditation. It's active reclaiming of control over your own internal state. The narcissist loses power over you the moment you learn to regulate your own emotions, independently of what they do or say. Phase 3 is cultivating genuinely strategic silence, not passive-aggressive silence, which is still a veiled form of communication and an attempt to provoke a reaction. Genuine silence comes from no longer having anything to prove to anyone. Practically, this means stopping yourself from explaining, even when provoked, stopping yourself from justifying, even when accused, stopping yourself from defending your choices, even when questioned. When someone tries to engage you in debate or conflict, you simply don't respond. Or you respond with very short phrases that don't offer an opening for continuation. That's it. This is how I choose. I don't need you to understand, and disconnect. Phase 4 is conscious integration of the golden shadow. Carl Jung discovered that the shadow doesn't only contain negative qualities that were repressed because they were socially unacceptable. It also contains powerful positive qualities that you were taught to hide because they were threatening to others, for the highly sensitive person specifically. These golden qualities often include natural assertiveness, genuine inner strength, the ability to fiercely prioritize oneself, the power to say no without explanation, Integrating the golden shadow means reclaiming these exiled qualities. It means allowing yourself to be strong without feeling guilt about it. Allowing yourself to say no without needing to justify it to anyone. Allowing yourself to take up space without asking permission. Phase 5 is establishing completely silent boundaries. Boundaries that don't need to be announced, explained, or justified to fully exist. You're simply not available for certain things. You don't answer certain calls. You don't respond to certain messages, that you don't attend certain events. You don't participate in certain conversations. You don't explain why. You don't justify your absence. You're simply not there. These silent boundaries are exponentially more powerful than verbal boundaries because they give the narcissist absolutely no material to argue, manipulate, circumvent, or negotiate with. Phase 6 is permanent consolidation of sovereign identity. This takes real time. It doesn't happen overnight. Research on neuroplasticity shows that new neural patterns take an average of 66 days of consistent practice to consolidate as automatic. During this 2-month period or more, you deliberately practice being the person you always were, but never had permission to be. The person who doesn't need external approval to feel valuable, who doesn't need validation to know they're right, who exists completely whole and solid, independent of what others think, say, or do. What happens after these 6 phases is what Carl Jung called the conjunctio, the sacred union of opposites within the same person. You become capable of carrying both sensitivity and strength in the same personality, both deep empathy and rigid boundaries, both genuine love for others and non-negotiable love for yourself. This integration is permanent once achieved. You can't go back to being fragmented after becoming whole. The person you were before, the one who screamed hoping to be heard, the one who begged to be understood, the one who fell apart trying to fix the other person. That person simply doesn't exist anymore. She's dead, and something much more powerful has been born in her place. And here's the cruel irony that the narcissist never manages to understand. They spent years of their life trying to break you, trying to silence you, trying to diminish you until you disappeared. And in the process, they accidentally pushed you into a transformation that made you infinitely stronger than they could ever imagine. Their systematic abuse was the unintentional catalyst for your individuation. Not because abuse is good or necessary. Abuse is always destructive and never justifiable, but because within you there always existed a latent capacity to transmute pain into power, to use the darkness as fuel to ignite your own light, to emerge from destruction more whole than when you entered. Andrew Huberman explained in detail in his episode about the vagus nerve that the gut produces approximately 90% of all the serotonin in the human body. This gut serotonin doesn't travel directly to the brain through the bloodstream, but signals its presence through the vagus nerve, influencing the release of brain serotonin. This directly affects your mood, your cognitive abilities, and your neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt. When you're in chronic stress, as invariably happens in any relationship with a narcissist, this gut-brain communication is severely impaired. When you finally enter genuine silence, when your nervous system regulates itself for the first time in years, this communication is naturally restored. Your mood improves, your mind clears, your ability to change, learn, and transform increases dramatically. The transformation of the silent, highly sensitive person is so profound and visible that it often scares the people around them who haven't gone through the same process. Friends and family, those who were used to the reactive and emotional version of you, they might not even recognize this calm and centered version. Some might say you're being cold or distant. Others might say you've changed in a way that personally bothers them. This is completely expected and even necessary. Carl Jung warned that genuine individuation often results in temporary isolation, because when you fundamentally change who you are, your existing relationships also need to change or end. Some will adapt to the new you, others will reveal that they were only there for the fragmented and manipulable version. The narcissist specifically, they'll try everything to get the old you back. They'll use all the tactics that worked in the past. They'll provoke you with calculated comments. They'll accuse you with perverse projections. They'll play the victim in dramatic ways. They'll alternate between explosive anger and manipulative sweetness. Everything that worked before, and when absolutely nothing works, when your silence remains completely unshakable despite all their attempts, they'll do one of two things. Either they'll dramatically intensify the abusive behaviors in a last, desperate attempt to provoke any kind of reaction from you, or they'll disappear silently, seeking narcissistic supply somewhere else where it still works. Both outcomes are a complete victory for you, because in both cases, you've definitively stopped being controlled. There's something else that needs to be said about the power of silence. Jung observed that silence isn't just an absence of words. It's the presence of something much greater. It's the space where the unconscious can finally emerge and be heard, while you're busy reacting, screaming, explaining, defending yourself. You can't hear the inner voice that always knew the truth. External silence creates internal silence, and in that internal silence, genuine wisdom emerges. Intuition speaks. The authentic self can finally be heard. Recent research on meditation and silence shows that regular periods of genuine quiet increase the connectivity between different brain regions. It increases the activity in the default mode network, the neural network associated with self-reflection and processing meaning. It increases neuroplasticity. You literally become more capable of change, of learning, of evolving, when you stop spending all your energy reacting to external chaos. As Andrew Huberman often points out, controlling your reactions is key to managing your nervous system and achieving a sense of calm. You've just received a revelation that connects Jung and Huberman in a way that few therapists can, that the silence of the highly sensitive person isn't weakness or defeat. It's the purest manifestation of real psychological power, that your nervous system can be reclaimed from years of conditioning, that your sensitivity, when integrated with strength instead of used against you, becomes an absolutely unique capacity for perception and transformation. That the narcissist never had real power over you as a person. They had power over your automatic reactions, and the exact moment you stop reacting automatically, that power completely dissolves. If this content revealed something you felt intuitively but couldn't name with words, consider supporting this work. The super thanks isn't just a financial contribution. It's you publicly declaring that you value knowledge that unites deep psychology with cutting-edge neuroscience. It's you becoming part of a growing movement of people who are waking up to their own power. Each click on the golden heart directly funds the next revelation. It funds hours of research integrating sources that traditional academia keeps rigidly separated. Now I need to hear from you in the comments. When was the exact moment you stopped explaining yourself and chose genuine silence? What happened next? Did the narcissist escalate desperately before disappearing? Or did they simply vanish when they realized you were no longer manipulable? Sharing your specific experience here might be exactly the catalyst that someone else needed to choose transformative silence instead of the scream that feeds. Detailed comments help the algorithm show this video to those who really need to find it. And those who need it are the thousands of highly sensitive people still trapped at this moment in the cycle of reaction that feeds the narcissist daily. Be the person who shows another possible path, the path of silence that transforms permanently.